start. Okay. So DAPA. The funny thing about DAPA, some people don't know they need it, and they do. Some people think they need it, and they don't. Not all VAs use it, and it's kind of a weird character. It's kind of hard to find. If you go on Google and you search DAPA, unfortunately, it pulls up another program called DAPA, which has to do with illegal immigrants. And because illegal immigration is such a hot topic right now with the presidency and all that, it pretty much, when you search DAPA, it dominates the first 7 or 8 pages. But that's not the right DAPA that you're looking for. The DAPA that you need is what's called a distribution and pricing agreement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And even when you search that, it doesn't bring up much about the DAPA, which is the MSPV program is another word for it.
Yep.
Now, do you have a purchasing agent that's asking you to get a DAPA, or did someone tell you to get a DAPA? What's your main interest for looking into it?
Yeah, so we are a medical device manufacturer. We are currently in about 4 or 5 active military facilities.
Awesome.
And using our product. But as we go forth and do that, it's in the current structure, we're going off of credit cards. We need to hand walk in product. It has its limitations, and it has challenges in terms of just the logistics for, I think, everybody involved. And so in a prior role at a prior company before I joined Torax, when we were at a very similar stage, we got a DAPA and then distributed through Cardinal Health. This was for a company called Intersect ENT, and it made everybody's lives much simpler. So that was that's my prior experience. It took a little while to go through the DAPA process. It took a little while to go and finalize the contract with Cardinal, but we did both those things. And once they were in place, it made life, as I said, much easier.
Simpler.
And so, and so with that as the backdrop of the experience, what we're looking to do here is expand out, deepen our ability to serve the organization, the institutions we're already serving. So Eisenhower, Martin, Army, Madigan, and some others, but also be able to expand our footprint and make it much easier. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Excellent, excellent. DAPA is one of those things. DAPA is kind of like a GSA for medical or a device for medical suppliers. In that it is a separate registration outside of the norm. It is extremely difficult. Like you said, it does take some time and there's some energy involved in processing it. Not all VAs are using it. Some are, and some are using it exclusively. I know there's a VA in Austin, Texas. Good luck selling to them anything if you're not on a DAPA. And they're even trying to push non-medical supplies and devices, which is weird because DAPA was designed specifically for medical devices and equipment, etc. The one thing about it, kind of like a GSA, is that it's a smaller realm of purchasing, but they tend to be larger, longer-term contracts, and they're easier to get, like you just said. If you go to the FPDS, Federal Procurement Data System, and you put in DAPA, you're not going to see a lot of contracts in here under DAPA because the purchasing agents simply aren't going in and putting it in the notes. And if they don't put it in the notes that that's the way it's purchased, it's not going to show up. But if you cross-reference that with f.b.o, you'll find a different story. If you go into f.b.o, go to the advanced search, you'll see that there are a fair amount of contracts out right now that are specifically being put out for DAPA, so only people on the DAPA schedule can do them. And of course, most of them are medical pieces or equipment or even things as simple as Band-Aids, tongue depressors, stuff like that, disposable items, commodities that are done through the medical and industry for doctors, etc., is being done through a DAPA schedule.
Okay.
As far as getting information on it, there's not a whole lot out there. I actually have, see if I still have that. I got a new computer recently, and the other one was, something was corrupted with the email, so I lost some of my emails. That's all of our vendors that are on a DAPA. In case you ever need to work with somebody as a sub or teaming agreement, let me know, because we have a lot of clients on it already. Let me see here. Should probably have it in my sent file. That's what I should have looked at to begin with.
So what are the trade-offs between getting your own DAPA versus working as a subcontractor off of someone who has one in place?
You know, having a DAPA in place obviously gives you the ability to sell as a prime versus working with a prime that has a DAPA. You're going to have to sell to them as a subcontractor, and of course they would turn around and sell as a prime, which cuts part of the profits out of your pocket because you're basically the middleman. Not necessarily the worst problem to have, because I actually teach people how to broker contracts, and that's being the middleman is how they make their living. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you have the ability to sell as a prime, you know, why broker it? Why be the middleman when you can sell direct? I have the MSPV program booklet that I'll send you that gives you the full details on DAPA, how the systems are broke down. I can send you that so you can look that over. And then basically at this point, what you're looking at is either the option of self-certifying or utilizing a third party. When it comes to the opportunities in f.b.o, it makes sense. But again, it's hard to track them because the purchasing agents don't put very many notes in there. So they don't show up much on the federal procurement data system at all.
Okay, so the actual application to set up the DAPA is where?
Let me email you the link for it right here. I just had it up and I lost it. Oh, I searched it. That's right. Here it is. Duh. There's instructions down here, about halfway down on the document, called DAPA Made Easy.
Okay.
There it is. DAPA's Made Easy. So it's giving you instructions in this document I'm sending you on how to do it on your own. If you guys opt not to self-certify and you want us to process it for you, all you have to do is get with me, give me some details about the company. We need to know revenues and stuff like that from the last 3 years average, and then I can tell you what we would charge to process it for you. Not a problem.
Okay. What is the typical timeline for managing through the application?
People who self-certify, I've heard anything from 3 to 6 months. I've heard people call up and say they've been working on it for over a year. I've had people call up and say they paid an attorney $50,000 ago and they're still not on a DAPA. I've heard all kinds of stories. When it comes to us processing it, we can typically get it done within about 3 months. And that's usually at the soonest you can do it on your own is 3 to 6.
Okay.
So it really depends on what, you know, what issues you guys run into. If you've got all the documentation and paperwork that they require, if you submit it properly in the right order, What a lot of people wind up making mistakes on is they'll put together a packet of information that's required, and they'll submit it, but they're missing one little piece that they didn't notice. And then it takes the government up to 30 days to review it, and after 30 days, they deny it. And a lot of times when they deny it, they send it back. They don't tell you why they denied it. So then you have to go through it and try and figure out what was missing or what you did wrong, and then resubmit it, and then you got another 30 days to wait for them to accept it or deny it again. And then there's multiple documents that are submitted, so you might get the first two right, and then the third one takes 6 months for, you know, it really depends. But I can tell you, as far as we're concerned, if you just look at the grand scheme of things, in SAM, which is the primary system you have to be registered in to get a DAPA, there's 1.2 million for-profit vendors in SAM right now. Over 900,000 of them are inactive. There's only about 340,000 active for-profit vendors in SAM. More than half of those are big business, but let's just say half are big, half are small for argument's sake. So about 160,000 small businesses are active in SAM right now. Our organization, U.S. Federal Contractor Registration, we've processed 80,000 SAM registrations. We're technically responsible for half the small businesses that are selling to the government right now. So when it comes to processing something like a DAPA or a GSA or an 8A or a hub zone, you know, registrations that are far more complicated than the basic SAM and DSBS, et cetera, we are the leader in the industry. And we're the only organization that exists that does GSAs on a monthly 12-month payment system. We don't take full payment on GSA up front like 99.9% of our competition, because a lot of them know that you might not qualify. And it could take 2 or 3 months of paperwork to figure out you don't qualify, and then they don't want to give your money back. We don't do that. We charge you monthly. That way, if you don't qualify after 2 or 3 months, you're not out of pocket anything, and what you have spent, we allow you to use towards another service. We give you credit on it.
And DAPA, what would be the biggest reasons why a company wouldn't qualify?
On GSA, the biggest reasons why companies wouldn't qualify on GSA is because you don't have enough experience. Maybe they've been audited in the past, and their audit didn't turn out very well. And because when you get on a GSA schedule, you are setting yourself up to be subject to auditing, and you're setting yourself up to be subject to affirmative action and other types of requirements. And not everybody has, you know, so many veterans and so many women and so many minorities working in their business, so they don't always qualify for GSA. DAPA is a little different. DAPA is kind of the same in that it takes a while to process, and it's not cheap. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but there's not as many requirements with DAPA. The likelihood of you not qualifying for a DAPA is pretty much zero. As long as you have letters of supply from your manufacturers, as long as you can get letters of supply, which you already have, and you've got your you know, your documents and your not documents of authorization. I know so much, I forget half as much as I know sometimes. Articles of incorporation. As long as you have all your documentation in place that we need to process it, you're going to qualify for DAPA because you sell medical devices and products, number one. It sounds like you've already got purchasing agents that you're working with that are basically telling you, hey, get on a DAPA and we'll make it easier on you, or we can buy more from you. Or like you said, you've got experience with a company in the past that got on the DAPA and things got much easier and faster, and you could sell more. So it's really, if you're in a position where a DAPA can benefit you, it's a no-brainer because there's very few people in that program. It's kind of like the 8A. It's kind of like the hub zone, in that, you know, for small businesses, selling as a small business, yeah, there's 23% set aside, but there's 160,000 small businesses sharing that. For small businesses that can get in the 8A, it's the same 5% that they're getting as a minority or woman or veteran, but there's only 5,300. There's less than 1/10 of 1% of the competition. DAPA's the same. DAPA's in that same category. There's so few people that hold a DAPA right now that there's very little competition. Some of the DAPA purchases I'm seeing, there's only one offer received. There's literally not a second bidder because there's very few people that hold it. Sometimes it's impossible to get a second quote, you know. It's definitely worth having if you're in a position where you can use it, which you are, and you're in a position where you've already got past performance. Now, we get a lot of people that call up and say, hey, I want to get on a DAPA, but they haven't sold anything to the government. They have no past performance. In that case, I would say, listen, take a step back. Let's focus on just some no-bid contracts. Let's focus on winning a few and getting some under your belt, and then you'll be a better fit for the DAPA down the road. You guys fortunately already have the past performance. You're in a good position for it. It's just a matter of getting it processed quickly and painlessly.
Yep. Okay. Got it. No, I appreciate that.